All right, the usual House rules. Of course, politics heating up the closer we get to the election, but again, whatever the politicians do is going to affect us from a tax perspective no matter what. So it doesn't really matter eventually who's in control of the administration and Congress. We'll either have tax changes one direction or tax changes another direction, but we want to help each other here. Keep it general. We do get into some good coverage of tax law, but if you do have a specific situation, reach out to me or Laura so we can address it one-on-one. And of course, courtesy, we all want to be nice and play fair. Don't hit people, say please and thank you. Legal stuff, again, this is informational only, educational only, so this does not constitute specific tax advice. Please don't pick up and run with this on a do-it-yourself method. Go ahead and reach out to us, make sure that it applies to your overall tax situation. There are some things that can trip you up, and unfortunately tax laws, as much as we would like it to be simple, is not. Every time Congress tries to make it simpler, they make it more complex. Every tax bill adds anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 pages to our tax regulations. Accuracy of information, as far as I know, everything's accurate when we present it, but tax law is changing. So what's true today may not be true tomorrow. Any of you ever feel overwhelmed with alphabet soup? You look at all these tax and other professional designations, maybe on Facebook or definitely on LinkedIn or in the email signature line of emails you get, and you're seeing CPA, EA, ATP, CRTP, JD, CTM, NTPI, CFP. What the heck do all these mean? And I guess I've gotten older and wiser in some ways. I used to want to add a bunch of letters behind my name as if my name wasn't long enough already. And while I do appreciate the designations and I do strive to get proper education, if it leads to a designation, great. If it doesn't, then I'll move on anyway. I just want to get the education so I can serve you as my clients as best as possible. But there's really an alphabet soup out there, and unfortunately, some people use that as their, I guess, justification for what they do, rather than having the knowledge and the experience to back it up. So some of these alphabet soup letters, really from your perspective for tax and financial planning, don't mean much. Some of them could mean something, but it depends on where that person is experienced in practicing. And some of them may not apply to your situation at all. Well, some of these are licenses that are granted and monitored by either government or quasi-governmental professional associations. For example, Certified Public Accountant is administered and managed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and each state's Board of Accountancy. So CPAs are licensed by their states. CPA can only be used by certified public accountants in good standing, and there may or may not be some limited reciprocity between states. For example, a California CPA may or may not be able to help a client in Nevada, depending on what the case scope or the justification or need for consulting is. The unfortunate thing, this kind of helps and hinders things, is just like Kleenex has become the catch-all term for facial tissue, CPA has become the catch-all term for tax professional. So even people that don't even have a license, I frequently hear tax payers refer to them as their CPA, and that's unfortunate because CPA is a very specific designation. It's a very respectable license, and it takes a lot to get there. So by referring to non-licensed professionals as CPAs, it's kind of diluting what that professional license really is. The Enrolled Agent License, EA, is administered by the U.S. Treasury through IRS in the Office of Professional Responsibility and can only be used by enrolled agents in good standing. And then, of course, attorneys are administered by each state's bar. Again, that's state specific, so every attorney is licensed by at least one state bar. They may be licensed in multiple states, and there may or may not be some limited reciprocity where an attorney in one state can practice law in another state. So out of these three main licenses here, CPAs and attorneys are licensed by their states, and enrolled agents are licensed by the federal government. Now, others in this alphabet soup are granted by professional associations. Some of these designations are specific to a membership organization. And if you drop that membership, you may lose the credential because they're tied to the membership. For example, I was a certified tax coach through the American Institute of Certified Tax Coaches. I decided to drop that membership in favor of the Taxmaster Network, and I lost that CTC designation. Does that mean my education and training from that program went away? No, it just means I cannot use their trademark license behind my name. Primarily, though, what you need to know about tax is that the primary credentials for tax professionals are AFPS, CRTP, CPA, EA, and attorney or JD. Now, the first two there, the AFPS is the annual filing season program participant. That's a designation of a non-licensed professional who's voluntarily participating in the IRS's recommended continuing education or qualifying education for taxes. This is the scary part. There is no requirement that a tax preparer be licensed anywhere in the United States, with the limit of 3 states that do require some minimum education and licensing or registration. Other than that, anybody can go out and buy a copy of TurboTax, get a book on tax, call themselves a tax preparer and start charging to do tax returns, even if they don't know what they're doing. IRS has been trying to push through a licensing or registration program for years. They actually got it off the ground a couple of years ago, but a group of unlicensed tax preparers, primarily headquartered in Chicago, challenged the IRS, took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with them that the IRS did not have the legal authority to regulate tax preparers in that manner. It was called the Loving decision. So unfortunately, if you walk into a local tax preparer office, they may or may not be licensed. They may or may not have the experience that you need for them to take care of your taxes. CRTP, California Registered Tax Preparer. California was the first state to require registration and minimum education requirements for tax preparers. Every tax preparer in California, unless they're one of the officially licensed CPA, EA, or attorney, must do 60 hours of initial qualifying education and then 30 hours a year of continuing education to keep that license current with the state. Again, the CPA, Certified Public Accountant, they're considered a Circular 230 practitioner. They have unlimited rights to represent taxpayers at IRS. They're licensed by their state board of accountancy. Now, CPAs may or may not work in tax, just like your doctor is an MD, but he may be a general practitioner or he may be a brain surgeon. It depends on what his specialty is that he wants to pursue. To become a CPA, there are minimum education requirements, experience requirements, and then CPAs have to pass a difficult 4-part test. Those 4 parts are audit and attestation, where they're auditing financial statements. Has nothing to do with tax, but is a requirement for companies that are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. A lot of franchisors have to have their financials audited in order to provide franchise license agreements, things like that. BEC, Business Entities Concepts. FAR, Financial, and I forget exactly what it is, but it's financial statements. And regulations is the tax aspect or the law aspect, both of the auditing and financial statement preparation and of tax. So only the BEC and REG sections have tax-related components, and less than 10% of the CPA exam actually covers tax. So again, if you're working with a CPA, you want to make sure that they're adept in the area that you want to work with them on. They may or may not be familiar with a lot of tax situations. In fact, we just had a referral client come in this week. They've been working with a CPA for a number of years who said that they really didn't need a business entity for their business. It was just going to add paperwork to their situation. I took a look at that, and I'm recommending an entity that's going to save them about $40,000 a year. So a little bit of paperwork is going to put some more money back in their pocket. And that particular CPA may have been very good at financial statement preparation, but probably wasn't as adept at tax law and tax planning. The enrolled agent is a person who's earned the privilege to represent taxpayers at the IRS either by passing a 3-part test. Now, when I took it, it was a 4-part test, but that's kind of minor in the greater scheme of things. And that covers individual and business taxes and practice, representation, and procedure. Or they can get the EA license through experience as a former IRS employee at certain levels of administration. They have to have 5 years experience at the IRS in order to bypass the testing requirement. And it's always fun taking a proctored test by the IRS with IRS agents walking around, looking over your shoulder, escorting you to the restroom if you need to take a break, that kind of thing. And then we've got attorneys who, again, are professionals that are licensed by their state bar to practice law. Similar to CPAs, attorneys may or may not work in tax. They may or may not focus on tax-related items. Generally speaking, a tax lawyer is going to be consulted in extremely complex tax strategies where we need to work with the IRS directly to get either a letter saying that we can proceed in this direction under tax law, or if there's a case of criminal investigation where representation by an attorney is recommended or warranted. So the main things to consider is your tax professional licensed? Again, anywhere in the United States, somebody can go out and buy a $1,000 software package and hang a shingle and call themselves a tax professional. If they are licensed, are they under suspension or discipline? Or even if they're unlicensed, a lot of times they'll be called up for suspension or be restricted from preparing taxes. And are they experienced in the areas of tax that impact you? Just like with attorneys, some attorneys are very adept at estate planning, and some are going to be very adept at business concepts. Is your tax professional experienced in business matters? Do they focus on estate matters? Do they focus on individual taxes? I don't do a lot of estate work, but I do have an associate that I refer all of my estates and trusts to, whereas I focus primarily on business and high net worth individual taxes. And do they help you avoid overpaying your tax, or do they just put numbers in boxes and hand you the tax return and say, write this check to the IRS? So, alphabet soup, questions, comments, thoughts? Let's see, chat window here. Okay, cool. We'll move on to some of the fun stuff then.